control the vertigo.
Welcome to Anthologic, the TV anthology podcast. I am your host, Mark. Anthologic is a podcast dedicated to exploring the good, the bad, and the odd of horror, science fiction, and the best of mystery suspense anthology shows and series on TV. Join me as we slip through the cracks of reality to approach the extremes of experience, where we can peruse the stories and art of a sinister fairground of strange and wonderful rides. And now we go on to the show that is the focus of this particular episode. Welcome to this episode of Anthologic with your host Mark. Today I'll be talking about a series called Mystery and Imagination, and specifically one episode which is Dracula. Mystery and Imagination was a British TV anthology series covering classic horror and supernatural dramas. It ran for 5 seasons between 1966 and 1970 on Thames Television. It was mostly black and white, but the sort of stories it covered were Bram Stoker's Dracula, which I'm going to talk about tonight, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, and various stories by M.R. James, Edgar Allan Poe, Robert Louis Stevenson. A few of the more famous stories it covers are things like The Fall of the House of Usher by Edgar Allan Poe, The Tractate Midos by M.R. James, Lost Hearts by M.R. James, Canterville Ghost by Oscar Wilde, Carmilla by Sheridan Le Fanu, Cast in the Rooms by M.R. James, Telltale Heart by Edgar Allan Poe, and I'm just sampling it. These are the more famous ones it covers. Series 4, which is the one of the ones I'm going to be talking about tonight, was a particular standout because it featured both Frankenstein and Dracula, and there was only 3 episodes in that season. So that's kind of interesting, right? I don't know about the length of many of the other episodes, but they were close to feature length. Dracula, for example, is 1 hour 20 minutes, so it was almost like a TV movie. Which is kind of interesting. Okay, let's move on to the one tonight. This one is Dracula from season 4, episode 3, the end of the season, in fact. It was first broadcast on the 18th of November 1968 in black and white, and it featured Denham Elliott, of all people. Him of Indiana Jones fame, Raiders of the Lost Ark, and lots of other things. He's a very well-known British character actor, but it's his turn to play Dracula. Unusual choice, and it was quite an unusually constructed piece of drama. It had several distinctive elements that are worth noting. It actually starts with him already arrived in Whitby, and they talk about the crashed ship, and there's also talk of a lunatic that is being looked after by Dr. Seward, who was a survivor of the crashed ship that Dracula came in on. Dracula said he disembarked earlier in the voyage and made his own way there, so he wasn't part of the wreckage. And he's called 34, is the maniac's called, and he raves. You think it's Renfield, but in fact it turns out it's quite a clever combination of characters here. It actually turns out to be Jonathan Harker returning and sent mad by, what Dracula's done to him. And we actually then get some flashbacks of him first arriving at Dracula's castle. We see the brides of Dracula. Now, one of the unusual elements of this is we do see the brides, but they are different races, which is an interesting twist. There's a white one, a black one, and one that may be sort of from the Far East. It's quite hard to tell because these are videotaped, not filmed, and they're in black and white, so some of the imagery is a little indistinct. I really liked Patient 34 in this, played by Corin Redgrave. I thought he did a good job. And Denham Elliott is very interesting. He's very charismatic here. He comes through as a force of nature. And you think Denham Elliott wouldn't pick this off because he often plays someone who's mild-mannered and nervous, but here he's playing Dracula. One of the other distinctive elements I thought was interesting was his teeth. When we see the vampires in this, they don't have the typical prolonged canines we often see in vampire films. They're more like a rat-like sharp teeth, a bit like Nosferatu. So that's kind of an interesting twist as well. So there's all sorts going on here. In terms of other actors in this, we have quite a few British character actors who Bernard Archard is Van Helsing, does a good job. Joan Hickson turns out Mrs. Weston. That is a contraction of Western Run. Mrs. Weston, Lucy's mother. Lucy's played by Susan George, who went on to Straw Dogs after this, among other things. Dirty Mary, Crazy Larry, stuff like that. But the acting is very solid. I mean, it's a stagey production, definitely a stagey production, but I thought the action was very solid. And some of the monologues by Dracula are quite effective, him talking about his history, and the final confrontation, he asks for pity. It's kind of interesting, sort of promises, life immortal and stuff like that. So I quite like this. It was quite an effective little drama. I believe it's on Netflix, so that's worth knowing, right? But I could be wrong there. But there is a box set for Mystery and Imagination, and some of the episodes have been lost, but I believe Dracula's one of the ones that isn't. And I own the box set, and I'm having trouble finding it, so I can't confirm this. I had to watch sort of a download for this one, and I rather enjoyed it. It was quite a good version of Dracula. Now, apologies, when I cover series, I usually start at season 1, episode 1, but I just happened to watch this and I wanted to talk about it, so I'm jumping around on this particular instance. I'll go back to my usual format in future. I think for most episodes that aren't at my usual Outer Limits, Twilight Zone or Night Gallery rotation of always doing season 1, episode 1, but this I made an exception for. It was quite unusual and I quite enjoyed it, and I was really quite disappointed when it seemed to start in Whitby. I always liked the Castle Dracula stuff, but then they went on to do flashbacks, so it worked out for me just fine. So I highly recommend this one. I give it 6 or 7 out of 10. On IMDb it's 7 out of 10, so that's 7.1 out of 10 in fact. So that's a good recommendation. And there are a few colour stills on it which look quite cool, but unfortunately this was videotaped, not filmed, and it's kind of an old-fashioned videotape, and it's in black and white, so you don't quite get the full effect. So there is a bit of a problem. But all around, very well acted, decent script, stagey looking, unfortunately, which gives it the air of unreality, unfortunately. Until you get used to that kind of thing. I'm kind of used to that in British drama, so it didn't bother me, but it may bother some viewers. Okay, so bye from me, and may I ask, is anybody out there?
We now return control of your television set to you until next week at this same time, when the control voice will take you to